Take a minute to think about business. When your employees are contributing really well, when they're participating fully, and when you're appreciating them for the contribution they make, they sort of work harder. Happy employees work harder. We sort of know this. But they know it because what those employees are experiencing is work for them suddenly becomes a worthwhile experience. They get to make a contribution to something they love, they get to participate in a business, and they get appreciated for it. So they love it. They do more work. However, I would say there's not enough companies where that is true. There's not enough companies that you could, look at your company today, and if you went round all your employees and said, was today a worthwhile experience? Out of 10, how many would say, yes, it was? If you've got more than 10 employees, or you work in the company more than 10, how many would say it was? That today was a really, some days aren't worthwhile, right? Because it's a shit day. That can happen. But in companies where people really experience work as a worthwhile experience, they tend to work harder, they tend to be more productive, and the companies tend to be more profitable. Every business is a people business. But there's a weird thing about people. People do what they want to do. And we're all one of those people. So why do we spend most of our time telling people what to do, especially when they actually don't want to do it? You know, the biggest complaint I hear from managers when I'm working in companies is, well, I tell them all the time, but they just don't do it. And that's a sort of cultural thing. And it's a cultural thing around management, is people think management's about managing people, when actually it's probably more about managing their environment. But when your employees aren't participating, what's occurring is there's an obstacle. When they're not contributing, there's something in their way. And if that is your business and you're finding people aren't working, then your job as a leader is to figure out what that obstacle is and remove it, because what your job is to create the conditions where all of your employees actually choose to want to work hard, who actually choose to participate. And if your employees aren't choosing to participate, there's something in the environment, something in the business that's getting in the way of doing that. So how do you as a leader get your employees to contribute? Well, the first thing is you've got to have a really strong vision about what your business is about, why you're doing it. A really strong purpose that they can get excited about. Nobody wants to go and work for the boring company that does the boring job and it's just go in, go out. Clock in, clock out. That's not exciting. That doesn't feel like a worthwhile job. So you want to work for a company where something about that company matches your own personal desires, your purpose for your life, what you're interested in. Now, the thing about a powerful vision is you have to be able to speak it. You have to be able to use language to get it across to people. If you change the direction of your business and you don't change the language you use, the direction isn't really going to be that successful, the new direction. So leaders have got to understand how to use language and create new language that engages people and calls people to action, that makes action the thing to do. And if you're going to do that, as a leader, you need to know how to change how people hear what you say. You need to know how to change people's listening. I went to a Nexus event, and be careful what I say here because I don't want to embarrass them. There was not the big event they just did recently, the one before that. And there was a person who got up and spoke about finance. And I think it was probably their first or second time they got on stage to speak. They were very nervous, and it was a bit of a laboured presentation. And the next person who came on was a lawyer, and within 2 seconds, he changed the listening of the room. He got everyone back excited again. Everyone was paying attention to him. Now, he did that consciously, because I went up to him after and said, did you know what you did? First of all, he said, yes, I got them to listen to me. He actually knew that what he was doing was changing the listening in the room. Most speakers don't understand how to change the listening in the room. And if you are able to understand that, and you're able to create new language, the new language that describes the vision you have of the future, which has no evidence to prove it's going to exist yet, so you're getting people to believe in something that hasn't happened yet, then you're in a situation where you can now create a space. I call it a platform for those people to come and participate and contribute and be part of your business. Now, how many of you love it when you don't know what to do? You know, if you're in a job and you're getting along, you've got to a certain point, you can see where you've got to get to next, but there's a gap. And you don't know what to do in the gap. What do you do? YouTube. Actually, yeah, we do today. But before YouTube, we made it up ourselves. You know? It was like, you get to a point, you go, oh, shit, I don't know what to do. I'll just do something to get to the next point. Now, if you're a boss, that something might not be very helpful. I was always called a bit of a maverick at work because whenever I got to a gap, I'd make it up and get on with it. Didn't always do the right thing, but I got on with it. So human beings hate voids. If you find them, we actually figure out something and stick it in there. So as a boss, your platform that you create for people has got to be so strong that people understand how you think, what you're going to do next, so that they can actually fill in the gap with something that's going to work. Take tennis. Tennis is a platform. It has a physical element to it, the lines, the net, the bat, the ball. Then it has the rules of the game, how to play the game. Then it has the etiquette rules, which always sort of caught out John McEnroe, right? But that's the game of tennis. You'll know what it looks like. So if you get on a tennis court with rugby boots, you know you're in the wrong space. If you get on a tennis court, you know what you're going to do because the rules of the game dictate how to play the game of tennis. Now, if you want to change the game of tennis and you want to start playing badminton, you can't play badminton on a tennis court because the space isn't set up for badminton. Get what I'm saying? So every leader has got to create a space where everyone understands how they can contribute and what they're contributing to, what the big vision is. Now, I would say that that space has got to support the natural law of people. And the natural law of people has a few things to it. First of all, it says that every human being, in their natural state, wants to participate. We're human beings. We love participating. If we don't, there's an obstacle in the way. Every human being wants to participate in something that matters to them, means something to them, right? You're passionate about football or rugby or sailing or squash or whatever it is, or different interests you have, because it interests you. And then you get to make a contribution to it. You get to contribute to it. Because we all want to make a contribution. And then the important thing is you need to be appreciated for it. Because if you're not appreciated for it, are you encouraged to do it again? Yeah? No. How many of you don't get appreciated when you think you've made a really good contribution? It happens quite regularly. Because the boss is too busy. The boss is whatever. Doesn't make the time to appreciate you. You've done a really good job, and you go home grumpy going, well, you didn't bloody... You know, you have a grump, right? If you create the conditions on those conditions create the platform where it works, and every single employee understands their place, understands how they can participate, understands what they contribute, and is appreciated for it, then you've got a really happy workplace. Most bosses understand the need for a vision, the need for some purpose, some direction we're heading in. Not all of them know how to communicate it, though, and fewer know how to invent language to communicate that. But hardly any bosses I've met understand platforms, because it's sort of a foreign idea to us, this idea of a platform. But a platform is built out of language. You describe a platform. Tennis exists as a platform because of the language you use. And that's what you've got to get good at. So how do you start? Well, let's imagine you have an old car. Who's got an old car? Why did I think that'd be? So you have an old car. What's it like? Belches smoke when it goes uphill sometimes? No? It's not that old, right? Gets your feet wet when you go through a puddle? Sometimes. If it's a Land Rover, it doesn't have to go be a puddle, just it has to rain, right? It may struggle to go through the gears. It may be a bit rusty around the edges. It may not handle very good in corners. Now, it's probably a car crash waiting to happen. So what you do is you declare the breakdown, and you take it to a garage before you have the crash. And what's the garage do? It goes through the car, figures out what needs fixing, puts the things in place, gives it a good polish, and you get your lovely old familiar car back, right as rain, ready to go again. Leadership is a bit old-fashioned. Leadership is a bit rough around the edges. Leadership is going through a state at the minute where the truth is now a commodity. Misinformation is being poured on us left, right, and centre, and we're all getting very wet. And what we need to do is say, well, actually, we need to take leadership to the garage. We need to declare the breakdown in leadership. We need to work out what's gone wrong with it. We need to figure out what we need to add to it to make it better. And then we need to tell people what could be possible with this new approach to leadership. Now, that's what we've done, and that's the book. It's over there. Because Mike and I have been working consulting for years. I first met Mike in 1989. And this book is not about some theory. This book is distilled the 40-plus years we've been working into the things that we know have worked with clients, we've worked in businesses, that actually make things work for businesses. When I spoke to, I asked Jay, I was sitting right over there and listening to Jay Cowell speak here at the, the NatWest Boost? The NatWest Boost event. And she so inspired me, I actually wrote to her and said, would you write the foreword for my new book? And she said, well, let me read it first. So I sent her a copy of the book, and we had a phone call about it. She said, yes, I get the idea. How much do you want me to write? We're talking all through that. And then she said, reading your book, I felt like you'd been sitting in my office watching me work. Because she definitely demonstrates clean leadership. But there are too many bad leaders out there in the world. You know, on the news, you only hear about the bad leaders. I've written this guy's name down. Peter Hebblethwaite. Does that ring a bell to anyone? Odd name, but he was the CEO of P&O Ferries. Do you remember when they sacked everyone? And then he sat there in the Commons Committee room and said, yes, I know it was an illegal act, but we did it anyway. I mean, that is the CEO of a company. I mean, ethical standards, zero. So these bad leaders, right? I mean, if I said Johnson, you know, not a great leader. If you go Musk, there's things he does do well, but then how he's handled Twitter, not a great leader. You could talk about Jacinta Ardern, right? Sorry, I know it's Tesla, but so I said there are things he did well. There are things he did well. I did put that in first. Yeah, my Twitter account just got cancelled. Who knows Jacinta Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand, right? A great leader, and then when she got to the point when it was too much, she went, my time's up. I can't do this anymore. Someone else needs to take over, rather than just hanging on. Quite a lot of leaders hang on for too long. Margaret Thatcher's a classic one in that situation. But most of the good leaders we don't know about, because they're running small little businesses, often family businesses, often businesses that are not, funded by venture capitalists, that they're absolutely focused on delivering something of value. They're passionate about their business. They really know all their people, and they know their customers, and they know what they're trying to achieve. And they have a group of people around them that understand that passion, are connected to that passion, and those sort of businesses, people go home most evenings probably thinking, today was a worthwhile day. But if leadership is like it is today, how's it got there? How do we get to this state of leadership today, which is like this, not very nice, not looking after people, where executive pay compared to the average pay of company has gone skyrocketing in public companies? Well, it started probably around the 80s, because before the 80s we still had a traditional old fartish sort of leadership, but there was an ethical standard there that was very good. And after that it's sort of gone awry. Part of it's because of the change in technology. People can do more. People can get things done. Messages can get out there quickly, good messages and bad messages. So that rapid change in technology hasn't been handled very well by leadership. The focus on profit, the focus on shareholder value. Milton Friedman changed the whole scope of capitalism with his statement in 1985. And then we had this thing called social media, which has absolutely supported this individualistic, difficult word to say, leadership issues, where we're focusing on these celebrity and charismatic leaders who may not have the competence or the ethics to be able to do the job properly. Short-termism, shareholder value, executive pay gap, celebrity leaders. It's a horrible mix. And the people who lose out are the people who are working for those companies. And the reason they're losing out primarily is they do not have the opportunity to participate, contribute to something that's valuable to them, and get appreciated for it. There was a survey out there, or comment out on LinkedIn I saw the other day. I don't know who did the survey now, but it was 82% of managers had said they'd never had any formal management training. Right? 82% of managers. Now, it's a survey, so who do they ask and all those sort of questions, but a lot of managers haven't had formal training. I often ask managers when I'm working at the company, who trained you? And they go, oh, my boss. So I'm going to ask the boss, who trained you? They go, oh, my boss. Sometimes managers have been trained by 6 generations of management. 6 generations ago. Go back 6 generations. What was the world like then? Nothing like it is today. So if you are trained by that sort of mindset of management, then you are totally out of date trying to manage in the world today. And what I think managers need to have to be able to manage today is real competence in 4 things: finance, ethics, strategy, and the development of people. Because if you've got those 4 things right in your business, and they're all equally focused on in your business, it's going to work. But the thing is, leadership's emergent. What's my time? That's good. Leadership is an emergent phenomenon. Leaders emerge when the opportunity arises. True leaders, that is. If they have the skill set, the competence, the knowledge, and the challenges in front of them, leaders step up because they want to participate and contribute to something that matters to them. But the leaders we tend to see are the parachuted in McKinsey leaders, right? In America, there is a McKinsey effect. McKinsey CEOs and senior leaders come into companies. Companies take a downturn. Because what they do is they come in with a vision. We said a vision's important. Yes, it is important. They come in a vision but the vision is nothing to do with the company. It's all to do with them. They're going to do it their way. They're going to put their mark down on the business. So how do you feel when the new leader comes into your business and says, we're going to do it this way now? Right? How do you feel? Shit. Well, yeah, we do it, but we don't like it, right? How many of you experienced that when a new person has come in and has changed the way things are done? Oh, okay. Appointed leaders have a real problem because they have got to win your trust. They've got to understand what is important to you, what your concerns are, what your wishes are, before they start introducing their vision and their values. Because if they don't understand what you're doing, they do not know where the journey is starting. And if you're going to start any journey, 2 things you have to know: where you're starting and where you're going to. And most of these appointed leaders come in going, right, I'm going to start here, when actually the journey's over there. They're in the wrong place. And what happens is they fail. At some point, they fail. But look at the damage they do. I mean, the most obvious one to pick is Liz Truss, right? Talk about missing the starting point. I mean, I don't know which planet she was on, but it wasn't on England 2023, that's for sure. So what's the work of clean leadership? Well, first of all, as a leader, you've got to be able to take a stand. What's take a stand mean? Take a stand means you stand for something. Something that you can express really clearly and powerfully to the people around you. John takes a stand for networking, right? Everywhere he goes, John talks about networking. That's the only thing he talks about. But he's not boring. What? But he does it in a way that when you meet John, you understand he knows about networking. And it works. They've got to be able to express that vision powerfully. So they've got to be able to tell people what it's about, why it matters, what's important about it, and most importantly, how you can be part of it. They've got to engage people and bring them in. And if they don't engage people bringing them in, then they haven't really got to that point of being a leader. They may have the title, but they're not leading anyone. They're not going first so anyone can follow. And a good leader can stand for something and have a conversation. I can have a conversation with Andy, and we can have massive disagreement about the direction my conversation is going in, but I'm going to listen to his point of view. It may not change my point of view, but I'm going to listen. I'm not going to make him wrong. I'm going to listen to it. And a good leader can always listen to conflicting ideas and take them on board or not, but actually listen to them and make people realize they've listened to them. They've got to be competent, as I said, in finance, in strategy, in ethics, and the development of people. If those 4 things are not on their agenda every single day, then they are really failing at leadership. And if they are doing that, then what they're doing is lifting people up. How many of you experienced a leader that you knew the whole time they were trying to lift you up, put you in the best position possible so that you could achieve your best? Yeah? You've experienced that? How many have experienced the opposite? Yeah. And what they've got to be absolutely good at is holding the space for their people to make the best contribution, to really participate, to feel engaged, because if they're doing that, you're going to get people who are experiencing work as a worthwhile experience. And that is the power of clean leadership. And the weird thing is, the power of clean leadership is limitless. It's not about you, the leader. It's about what you create as a space for any number of people to come along and support you. So if you're growing a business, clean leadership is vital, because it's not about you. It's about the space you're creating for more and more people to come in and follow you. I'm not going to fall off the back of the stage. If you are able to do that, then every single individual in your business is going to experience work in a completely different way. It's going to be worthwhile, fulfilling, and they're going to want to do more. Thank you for your attention. That's it. I'm not going to go on any longer. And I have a gift for you today. There's reciprocation required, but I have a gift. If I've excited you enough or enthralled you enough about the potential of clean leadership, I've got a copy of the book for you, free to take home with you. Nothing else needs to be done. All I ask is that when you've read it, please leave a review on Amazon. Okay? Because then more people will hear about it and tell people about it. Any questions? Go on, someone with a question. Yes?
What's your view on how leadership has changed or evolved through and post the pandemic in this new hybrid type of workplace that many of us are?
No, very good question. So I was talking to a business owner who had a bunch of people in an office, and obviously they all went hybrid. Oh, well, they went home to start working. And he's been trying to create an environment where they come back for a couple of days a week, and it hasn't been working. I said, okay, so what are you doing about it? Well, I said, I'm trying to get them to be there at the same time so that this, mixing happens and cross ideas happen and people communicate to each other and there's connection going on. Okay, and said, and how are you doing that? Well, I'm telling them. I think the leaders who've come out of the pandemic who've gone, oh, we need to have a bit of new language, new way of doing things here, have realized that hybrid is just a word, and it means different things to different people. The leaders that are succeeding, I listened to a very interesting podcast the other day where there were 3 people talking about it. There was a law firm. So they've had a conversation with their staff, with their people, saying, how would it work for you? What value would you get coming back to the office? Now, no one's ever asked people that before, because in the contract it was go to the office, right? Your place of work is here. So, engaging people, the good leaders are going, oh, hang on, I've got to earn people's trust again. Go back to that point. And they're engaging people in conversations where they're creating the conditions for people to actually say, this would work. So, there are some leaders who changed. There are some leaders who are stuck very much in the past and are saying, no, I want everyone back in the office. Now, to me, that's a lot of ego, because I've got a big office, right? And I've got my people here. So, does that answer your question slightly, or not? Yeah? Next? Yeah.
Just on that point, with like listening versus telling, often I think if you ask people their opinions, you can end up like alienating the people who disagree with it. So if you put one office saying, 50% of them saying, yeah, we will come back to it, 50% saying, I don't want to come back to it at all. If you then make a decision, you're kind of alienating the 50% that disagree with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think where's the place for, is it autocracy versus democracy?
Good question. So, I said, if people want to participate and they're not, there's an obstacle. If people want to contribute and they're not, there's an obstacle. So if you're having that dialogue with people and you've got 50% saying no and 50% saying yes, you have a negotiation, right? Now, the 50% that's saying no probably don't see any value in saying yes. Now, I'm not talking value about pay, and I think the way organisations have deemed that if you work from home, we're going to pay you less, has really made work become transactional. It's you pay people for the contribution they make, whether they're in Hong Kong, Leeds, Liverpool or Exeter. It doesn't matter. It's the contribution they make. And if your head office is in Birmingham, who gives a toss? If they're making the contribution, you pay them for the contribution. So location and pay, apart from things like London weighting, was a very good idea, or city weighting, because the cost of living or the cost of the commute, totally understand that. But you can take the weighting off, but not people's actual pay. So if people aren't going to say, oh, yes, what's missing is dialogue. And dialogue is a very special type of conversation, because dialogue is not about me agreeing with you and disagreeing, it's about me expressing and describing the things that are important to me. And when you get a group of people around a table, especially with the no's and yeses, and you say, hey, there's some rules here, we're going to have some rules about the conversation we're going to have. Okay, you can't disagree with each other, you can't make other people wrong. You can express your views, you can express your opinions, you can describe the impact on you, but you can't judge other people. Now let's have a conversation. The conversation changes. You need it facilitated quite often because people get very clever at making people wrong in a very clever way that doesn't sound like it, right? Human beings like that. But if you have that facilitated conversation, and you can facilitate yourself, but it's like if you stick to the rules and have that conversation, what you end up doing is people start to see other people's point of view without judgment, and that opens up new possibility. I don't know what the solution would be, but that group of people could come up with a solution that works. If you give people the opportunity, they will come up with a solution that works. But you've got to trust them. Does that answer your question? With a question, probably. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Empathy is obviously one of the best things in leadership. I've now got 6 in my team under the age of 22. Mm-hmm. They don't even know what a DVD is. Mm-hmm. We're an ageing room here, some more than others, not looking at anyone. How do you empathise with these under 22 people to actually know what they want, how they want to be led? Because they have a completely different mindset, and just asking them the questions, they don't feed back to you what they actually think.
No, and part of that is because of the relationship we have with them. So, when we talk about communication, we talk about 5 distinct types of speaking. Directive, so I'm the boss, I speak, right? Expressive, I'm going to express my opinion. Descriptive, I'm going to describe something to you so understand what it means and how it works. Inquisitive, I'm going to ask you a question. And appreciative, I'm going to show my appreciation. Those are the 5 distinctions in speaking. But there's some distinction in listening as well. So the under 20s listen to old people in a particular way. So how do they listen to you? They probably listen to you, well, he's the boss. He's asking me to give my opinion, but he actually doesn't want it. What he wants me to do is agree, so I'll just agree. And you're saying, no, please, tell me your opinion. So you want people to share the ideas with you, but they go, yeah, but he's the boss. He's just being directive. I'll just listen to him in that way. So they listen to you in the way that you don't want them to listen to you. So how do you change their listening so that they actually start to realize they are creating the way of working? And I've done this in hotels and different groups many times, and it's really interesting where the management go, okay, this is what I want it to look like. And the people aren't going to think about it like that. But this is what I want it to look like. And then I start working with the people. And the people come up with a better version of this. And the management realise that, yes, it's covering all the points I want, but my God, they've brought some stuff into it that I didn't think was possible. So you need to create an environment, a space, for those people to have a conversation with you where they bring their ideas. Does that make any sense to you at all?
Yeah, well, we work in tech, so their ideas are the lifeblood of the business.
Absolutely. But it's not just the tech ideas, it's the human connection ideas, it's the interaction ideas, it's the working space ideas, and how they feel about expressing their opinion.
So I've got to get rid of the naughty step.
Yeah, probably. Or put a naughty step in and you stand on it. Any more? Last question. Yes.
Can you predict 3 future challenges that leaders are going to have to grapple with?
Well, the obvious one is AI, but here's the challenge of AI for leaders, is setting the principles for its use. Now, I don't know many leaders that actually understand AI unless they're in that space. I don't really I know a little bit about it. It's such a complex field, but here's the thing about AI. It has opened up a whole range of possibilities that most people don't understand yet. So you get people standing over here going, AI is going to destroy the world. And you get people over here going, this is the best thing since sliced bread, right? What is it? Somewhere in between. But leadership is going to determine which way that goes by setting standards, principles, ethics around it. There's no ethics for AI yet. That's the big challenge. There is no ethics for AI yet. So that's what leaders have got to challenge. That's one. The second one is remuneration. And what I mean by that is predominantly shareholder value is still the driving force. Now in smaller businesses that's not the case, but businesses that are listed or have got investors or things like that, shareholder value, that's what it's all about, increasing shareholder value. That's got to change. And leaders, why would leaders do that? Why would turkeys vote for Christmas? You know? But that's the thing that's got to change, because the gap between the average pay and senior executive pay has got to come down. It has become obscene. I mean, even the guy, the CEO of Apple, reduced his pay by half from 90, whatever it was, to 42. At 42, it's still some 300 times the average pay in the company. That's not right. How can you justify that what you do is 300 times, adding 300 times more value to the business than what that person's doing? And like you just said, the young people have got the tech ideas. Without them, have you got a business? No. Right? Hopefully your exec pay to your average pay is probably not 300 times. No. And the third thing, I think, is the development of people. There's this thing at the minute called a talent shortage, a talent crisis. It's not a talent crisis. It's a development of people crisis. I remember when we started the hotel, if somebody came to me and they had a training background from the Savoy Group, God, we picked them up really quickly. Because the Savoy Group was the apprenticeship from way back in the 20s. You know, it was like, trained by the Savoy Group, bloody hell, they've been given all the knowledge. Then it was a bit of Forte, then it's now probably Marriott are the only ones that are really doing big training programs. So small businesses especially have got to start investing in people. You can't just go out and buy the talent, because that's what's been happening. And guess what? That talent pool has run dry, because all of us have to invest in talent. And there's a lovely phrase I love. You've got to train your people well enough that they're ready for their next job, and you've got to treat them well enough that they never want to leave. But if you miss out that training piece, and leaders don't focus on that training piece, and think, oh no, we can just go out and buy it, they're damaging the environment for all of us. So to me, those are three big challenges. Do you like those challenges?
I do, yeah. And I suppose with the training thing, it's identifying what in person you can train and what is something that is just inherent to the way that they are.
What do you think the biggest skill we need to train is? Sorry to throw a question back at you.
I suppose,
Anyone?
Good luck follows hard work.
Say again?
Good luck follows hard work.
time management.
Two is one, man. Communication. Yeah, maybe communication. Maybe kindness. I would put it in another way, because I think of relationship in a different way. We've got to teach people how to create relationship. Not relationships, relationship. How to create a relationship with somebody that is for a specific purpose and has a specific dynamic, and how to maintain it. If we all learnt that to a degree that was brilliant, we would not have recruitment problems. We would not have challenges at work that just seem intransigent because of the relationship. And it's always when the relationship breaks down, you get the problems. So if we could train people in relationship, that would be it. There will be a course coming out shortly. I wasn't going to do this because I haven't put a date down yet, but we're putting together now something we've done in business a lot. But we're going to create the executive communication course. And it starts with, how do you build relationships? Because so many leaders have not got a clue. I'm sorry, they don't. Not from our standard, anyway.
Adrian, does that not start with self-awareness and emotional intelligence? Because to build relationship, to be a leader,
Yeah.
you need to first be aware of your own strengths and weaknesses, how you communicate. And actually, the best leaders I've come across have strong self-awareness.
And strong self-esteem. You know, they've done the job of learning what's important in their role. And that's yes. So
Is that what you start with when you're working with them, as in terms of this is, you know, whether it's psychometric or
it's not linear. The thing is, it's not linear. If you train people in great communication, they are able to pick up new skills. Because by understanding the structure of communication, they can create relationships with people that will give them what they need. But if they have no idea of the structure of communication, then they're just, you know, they're shouting and waiting for somebody to take notice, which is unfortunately very common. Is that it?
I reckon so.
Thank you for those questions, guys. That's really good. Thank you.
Okay, I was wondering if
Oh,